So I will not rush to create like hundreds of images, and because there's so many images already there. As you, at the beginning, in between, you said that so many photographs are there, so many people are photographing. So we have almost major species are well documented everywhere. So we are in not rush to create same images, repeat. So our intent is to try some good images. Good means which is good for me. It's not necessary that it will be appreciated by others or liked by others, but which I feel that I got it and I wanted to create it. So when you have limited images, limited goals, then your focus become quite intense to those things. So there's a concept which I learned during my CNP meetings, and that you develop or you grow over your image. So you make some image and then you see it and then you check the possibility that is there any way I can improve this image if I get again chance. And then you is like keep working on that image. You can remove element, you can add element. So this crane project, you can say, was a learning process where I implemented that and what different perspectives I can think of. So over 3 years, I think by the time I finished this thing, I am not 100% happy with my image because when finally I got the image where the details were there under the wing, the sky was not always good. So as a photographer, you become it's a flat sky. There should be some clouds also or something. The flying bird should be in particular this pattern where they are going over the. So we made tons of pictures, but I can't say that I've achieved 100% what I did. But then other projects were waiting for me, so I've given enough time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of F Stopping by the Woods, a nature photography podcast. We have a special guest today, Yashpal Rathore, a brilliant nature photographer and a dear friend. Yashpal recently published his book, Tiger, Tiger Burning Bright, which is a comprehensive photo essay on 50 years of Project Tiger, one of the most successful conservation stories in the world. Yashpal traveled to every single tiger reserve in India and set up camera traps in most of them to create some of the most unique tiger images from India. Yashpal's work has been recognized across the world. He's been honored in the Siena International Photography Awards. He's been the Photographer of the Year at Nature in Focus, Photographer of the Year at Sanctuary Asia, runners-up at DJ Memorial, and honored at Nature's Best Photography Awards. Yashpal has always created unique habitat photos, be it bats in an urban environment or a frog against the Milky Way in the Western Ghats. And to do the same with big cats, he had to build and develop some gear, camera casings, flashes, and triggering mechanisms. Apart from his recent book, this conversation is largely about a different level of effort, about being all in on photography, crafty enough to build your own remote triggering mechanisms, dedicated enough to build a body of work around it, and crazy enough to first dream and then create some of these images in tiger reserves. And that's the one thing that defines Yashpal's approach to photography, being 100% all in with everything he's got. Good morning, Yashpalji. Very, very happy to have you on this conversation. Welcome to F Stopping by the Woods.
Hey, good morning, Anu. Nice to be here.
So we'll start this in a very, very different way. I'm going to share a photograph with you and let's see if you're able to remember that photograph. Can you see this now?
Yeah, I can see.
Do you remember this photo?
Typical Kabini photograph.
Yes, and do you remember when and where we took it? We were together when we did this.
Yeah, I think we went with Arangini. I think UV and my wife Parmil both were also together.
Yes.
And we drove in my old gem, I believe.
Yes.
At that time, any sighting was like a great sighting. And then we don't have to plan that much, like one camera, one lens, just take it any weekend opportunity. I remember this also, I think Jungleologists given us we have written some article or something. Yes. I don't recollect exactly, but usually we used to go to Kabini only. I personally used to go only when we used to write something about in jungle, JLR Explorer or something.
Yeah, we also had our discount for NTP.
Yeah, NTP. I think that might be the reason.
Yes. So, and these were the good old days of 2009 where not so crowded Kabini, we could easily plan 2-3 weeks in advance.
2009, eh?
I think so, 2009, 2010, something like that. I remember all three of us were using 100-400 lens.
Yeah, that was like standard lens we shot. birds, mammals, whatever come, one lens, and always ready to move out as soon as we get to know that somebody is traveling somewhere.
Yeah,
Now
and we
things
were
are
so happy
different.
to see a leopard. Like, I hadn't seen a leopard before this. This was my first leopard
Is
sighting.
it?
Maybe you had seen, but for me it was a huge deal. So yeah, so from there, time when we were just happy to see a leopard in the jungle. Now, where you've written a book on tigers in India, and it's there in your background for everybody to see, which has taken you to every single tiger reserve in India. You photograph tigers practically everywhere. A lot of big cats. When you look back on this sort of journey, how has it been?
My journey as a photographer has been quite similar, like we all who did NTP Natural Training Program with JLR. We were all working professional that time, and we invested in a basic gear, one tele lens or one zoom lens, and that was our that time also the big investment. And we used to find opportunity leaves. Our tours were usually at the beginning. First 5 years were we over 3-4 days duration, and we used to go to mainly the most of the popular park. So in first 5-6 years of my journey as a photographer, I was trying to explore as India. So we were used to make a small group of few people, like-minded people. Then we used to go for small birding trips. Birding was our most economical way of exploring the surrounding of Western Ghat and some other places. Not only we don't have to go that time very far from Bangalore. We have so much around Bangalore also. Even we have to go to HRB, Hebbal Lake,
Yes.
Lal Bagh. These were like where we were all learning was happening. A good friendship was developing among few people who were all like-minded. And then from there we started going to the most popular park like Corbett, Bandhavgarh, Ranthambore. This was 2 or 3 trips a year kind of thing. And that's how journey continued. But somewhere in between living in Bangalore, it was an excellent opportunity that Bangalore was from very beginning was a very hub for wildlife photography and wildlife oriented people, not only in photography but otherwise. We have excellent forum, Indian
Yeah.
Nature Watch, Creative Nature Photography,
Yeah.
much before the social media become popular. So there was a lot of learning we had to, and we didn't did any proper photography course or something like that. So I was having a very inclination towards nature as such. Photography came very late in my life. So from my college life, I like to go to the wild, to the tiger census. I've been to many places for elephant census, and there used to be call in the newspaper in Karnataka that elephant census is going on. Who was one to volunteer? So we were doing all this thing, and then we did a naturals training program to understand nature, how it works, and then comes the photography. So the journey was parallel. We were growing as a naturalist also, and we were growing as a photographer also. And then once I did almost major part, then I start realizing that what we are doing primarily is few iconic species, and we are doing them again and again. So that is where my thought process start changing. And being in electrical technical background, engineering background, I start thinking that what we all can do, because we know there is a more than 10 to 15 species in mammals at least,
Yeah.
which we are regularly photographing. So there is some 400 plus species of mammals. Even you take out the bats and rodents, still we have good 150, 200 species of mammals, which majority of them is not been regularly documented.
Yeah.
That's why the camera trap concept came in my thought process, and then we started developing DSLR based camera trap. And that's shift my focus from regular photography. Parallelly, I started developing camera trapping. So once I start doing this camera trap photography, then things start slowing down, because in camera trap photography I can't rush in a quick time to one national park. So this required a lot of research, lot of recce, and so my projects start getting longer, and equipment start getting larger and larger. So that is how I slightly shifted from handheld photography to camera trap, and now I do little longer projects compared to. So the book is the outcome of that journey. So what I learned over the decade from 2009 till 2019 or 20, and then we were working on a book project with our forest staff, forest official in Karnataka. My mentor also, Vijay Raj. They were finished a book called Forest. This was about frontline staff in Karnataka. And when that book got over in 2021 April, we launched it in Ranthambore, and then the thought process was that what should we do the next project. And by the time I have contributed good for camera trap projects in Bandhavgarh Coffee Table Book. I did a Kana camera trapping in Kana Tiger Reserve. So I have developed confidence among the forest official at least that I can take up this kind of challenge. And that's why this responsibility of capturing tiger for this 50 years of Project Tiger book came onto me. And then I started. This is almost we started in 21 somewhere in September, and then we traveled for almost 2 years across different tiger reserves. And at the beginning, we choose that we will go to the places where other people don't go normally. Like we
Yeah.
tried to go to Pilibhit, we went to Simplipal, we went to eastern part of India where normally people don't get
Yeah.
to see the tiger much. By November 2023, when we launched the book, I was engaged in this book project.
Amazing. Like it is so amazing to look back at the journey, right? And thank you for sharing it in so much detail. And I definitely sort of see the parallels in the journey. And I think that Bangalore has been an important part of both of our sort of journeys because it is such a good community, especially like India Nature Watch before Facebook. I remember when I was based in Tirupati, I'd post a photo there every morning after birding, and 4 or 5 people would comment on it, and that was a big deal. I think it was a very good, helpful community where people sort of helped each other with photography, how to go about things, and obviously
It's
there's
very much
CNP.
true. Sometimes I really feel that destiny plays a role. If I have not been moved with my job to Bangalore, we debate and discuss in my house that I would not be a photographer. I might be still traveling to national park and doing job. But as you said, the knowledge here what we get in
Yeah,
Bangalore and the people who are so helpful here, things were easy. I got good friends, good mentors as and when I required. So my journey became very easy as a nature photographer.
absolutely. And I think CNP also
Yes.
very good forum just to learn. And then the NTP program, which we've all done, and huge thanks to Karthik sir for. I think most wildlife photographers I know are also naturalists because they've done a naturalist training program and they understand that well. So yeah, I think overall that ecosystem has been very important. So thank you for sharing that. We will get into more details about the book, but where are you off to next? Where have you been traveling? Where is photography taking you these days?
So as I told, now the traveling is not what it used to be a few years back, and the main reason is that most of the tiger Indian parks we have covered in our initial
Yes.
5 to 6 years, and then there was a shift. Being a nature lover, I wanted to see the major ecosystem across the world also. So I think from 2012 onwards we start exploring Africa, then slowly we start going to other ecosystem. Now we are last 4 years we are doing Arctic. Now this year we will be going to Antarctica. So the as a parallel, the nature lover who want to see most of the nature, not tiger reserve only, major ecosystem across the world. So that is on my goal. So I hope we will cover major of the most of the tiger nature reserve across the planet. So we are traveling across the globe, and in India, I don't do those small. Tours kind of thing. Now in India, most of the things what I do will be a project. Like last 2024, I was busy doing a show reel for Badra Tiger Reserve. So almost 6 months I went being to one place. So now once we take a project, we get stick to one place at least for 3 to 6 months. So the traveling is not that disorient many places. It's at focused at one place. But in India, normally I do projects. So earlier, what we used to do a trip of 3 to 4 days. Now that 3 to 4 days gone in Reiki itself. So I did
Yes.
couple of Reikis. I did Northeast Reiki for my next book, which I'm working. I went to Ladakh. I went to Chambal area where I want to look for places and permissions where next year I will be getting into the work. So next tour as such is my photo tours, which I conduct. So we are heading this July only, 10th on Madagascar. But personal tours, I don't do random tours. Now I do more as a projects.
No, 100% makes total sense. So I think you're taking a group of people to Madagascar, and I think you're also doing Kenya after that.
Yeah, Kenya tour wise. So tour idea initially, and when we were exploring India, then I wanted to see the world also. So the
Yes.
only better way to see world was to
Yeah.
go in a group, and that's how the
100%.
idea came. So I went with two people, two of my friends, to first time in Mara, I think. And then, as I said, there also we get a right guide, side people, and then that's how things grow. And now my idea about conducting tour was that there was tour been organized before also, but they were expensive.
Yeah.
So when I started doing this international tour, my goal was to make things affordable.
Yeah.
So people like me and who can want to see the different major ecosystems, they can afford it. So that was the prime goal, and that is still my goal. So yes, we are doing good number of tours. Now word is traveling. I don't know after COVID or something, the people are traveling a lot. So I think I'm doing, I think, 4 groups in Kenya, and I was very reluctant. I will do, but there are so many people want to go. And then Antarctica, I will not believe it. I was thinking I will go with the 10 people. We are going with 26 people.
Wow,
So,
amazing.
so what is traveling? So
Yeah,
that is
so
how.
I'll put the links to all those stores so that if there are more people who are interested, they can either reach out to you, and I'll put that in the video description. But absolutely would love to travel with you sometime. There is so much to learn, and I think there's a lot of value in traveling with an established photographer like yourself, because you also have, apart from sort of the unique perspectives, you also have a lot to share about sort of, the book, how to develop a project uh, with respect to a particular park, think long term in terms of doing good deep work in a nature park and all of those things. So let's go back sort of to the book. And how did the idea of the book come up? Is it something that you pitched to the forest department? Is it something that they reached out to you on? Talk to me a little bit about.
So as I mentioned just before, the idea came from one of my good friend and for senior forest official, Vijay Mondra. He is a person again. He is again our CNP member and he's a very amazing photographer himself, creative mind. So he is not restless kind of person. He's not happy with doing only the government job. So his mind is always busy. We were sitting with our forest book advisory team and all that. Then he said that कुछ और करते हैं like we should keep us busy. So there's the idea came, and then he is the one who has this idea running in his mind that 23 the 50 years will be completed of Project Tiger. Why don't we start a project now? And we source a sponsor. And then again, as I always say, that we had a support of good people. We made an advisory committee consist of our senior PCCF and some experts from tiger conservation field, and those have helped us to build up the content concept for the book. And my job was very simple because I know what to go and do. So I was just have to go to the field which I enjoy actually, then to write
Yeah.
and edit and that kind of part. So guidance came from Vijay Mohan Raj sir, but it's opened me opportunity to do things which I was not comfortable before. Like during this book only, he encouraged me to do the portraits also, people also, because we were
Yes.
supposed to document the staffs and all, forest staff and people who work behind this project, Tiger Project story. So I was always reluctant to interact with humans, and that is one of the reason I enjoy being in nature. So, but somehow you learn these things, and I got help from some people who are good in portraits, and that's how I got taken up this as a new challenge. And this also gave me opportunity to go to the places otherwise I would have not gone. I would have never thought that I will go to Simplipal in Odisha and I'll spend 2.5 months looking for a one pseudomelanic tiger. I would have not explored the Pilibhit or Arunachal Pradesh or Assam. Obviously, I would have gone, but this have given me opportunity to meet the people like tribal people who are I never would have interacted. Like Chinchus, when I went to Andhra, I never aware about it. So this book
Yeah.
also given me a lot of learning journey about the how the tiger reserves work. Not only the forest staff, there are a lot of contribution from the low tribals people who live around. So we have covered, I think, 5 to 6 tribal people who lives in and around the tiger reserve from centuries, their lifestyle, how they are dependent. So these are also part of the book, and that was a big learning for me, challenge also, but learning for me. So then meanwhile, I just used to send the photographs from the field and come back. Then we used to have a review meeting, and whatever inputs they used to give, again I used to go into the field. Parallelly, the book design and the book was developing as I was getting photographs. And then we had again contributors to the book where we
Yeah.
had not able to reach. We taken help from the people and other photographers that supported us, and that's how the complete book project. We have amazing sponsor, the Smire. Their family is into wildlife. They are passionate about wildlife. They supported the book. So, and they are the sponsors who give you free hand. So we do not any bothered about what we are doing and how we are spending, where we are spending. So that help us in getting whatever thoughts were there into the product. And that's how the book came out.
Amazing. So a lot of things I want to sort of dig into based on what you've said. The first and foremost is obviously, you had a lot of support and you had a lot of friends in the forest department whom you were able to sort of reach out to. But since I also know you well, I also understand the way you've developed some of these connections. It's not happened overnight, right? You also had to work very hard to build some of the connections, to build some of the trust with the forest department, to be able to say, yes, we can allow you to go and do this and so on and so forth, right? It's not something that every photographer can get. You have sort of worked really hard and cultivated that. So for somebody who's a young photographer who's curious on how he can go about or how she can go about doing this, how would you say your process was, and what do you think somebody who's young can do to repeat the same?
Anup, I think I'm not sure what will the correct answer to your question, but what journey I did, I can just
Yes.
share that one. So first, as I told, I genuinely love nature. So it's not because I love photography, so I want to do wildlife photography. So
Yes.
it's not that I've got a camera, so I have to go to the forest. It was other way. I was going to the forest. I was doing my bit. I was participating bird survey, sensors, very basic things also. But I was not having camera that time. Camera came like from my college till 1990 somewhere when I used to go for a tiger sensor, even in Rajasthan where I was doing studies that time also. And my background was also my father was since in Indian Air Force, so we used to stay in most of the camps or Air Force bases which were very remote, and we had ample time to explore the surrounding and all that. So I was outdoor person, and during that time I was not the only outdoor person. Everybody was outdoor person because there was nothing indoor. So we almost all was outdoor person only. In 90s, whoever heading their schools or colleges. So I had an inclination towards nature. I did a naturalist training program, and then after that, Karnataka Forest Department is very innovative and very proactive kind of organization. They started something called Eco Volunteers. They made a ecotourism board. The idea was that every year they need volunteers for their forest management support, firefighting, or pilgrimage management, or census and all that. So they used to call people every year. So then they thought that why don't we develop a some certified volunteers so we don't have to train from zero every time the new people. So that is the idea came from. I think Luthra sir was the head of the first
Yes.
ecotourism board which constituted, and then I was first among the first people who did this 10-day course. So when you did this course, you again become a part of community, another community which really genuinely want to work for Indian forest. So we got again opportunity to, they used to call us for this random helpful work, and that's how we build slowly our reputation with the forest department. So is it first you have to show your inclination, you have to give your time, energy, and whatever expertise you are into. Some can be in legal, some can be in academic, some can be
Yeah.
in IT. So that time, whatever people can contribute genuinely back to the forest, and then the word spread that these are people who are genuinely want to work for the conservation. So there is again not a set pattern that everyone who will buy a particular camera and particular lens is going to get to this particular kind of photographs. That is your thought process as a photographer. So how that journey will be there, it can be same for everyone. So my thought process been get influenced by people who was around me and traveling with me. Somebody might be traveling with some other set of people and he might have other thought process. I got in CNP meet, nobody talks about tight portrait with whiskers are very clearly visible. Nobody talks about. So you start thinking something else. That is why the concept which I developed during that time, that I don't have to see everything from a human perspective. So when you see, lift the camera, put on your eyes, and you see, I believe that you are seeing nature from a human perspective. And when you take out the camera and start putting it random places, ground here, there, and you start using remote triggers, shutter release, camera trap, then you open up endless possibilities of viewing the nature. So that is the very beginning of my journey. After few years, I understood.
Yeah.
So I start getting some different perspective, and that images start giving me some recognition. So this parallelly work, you grow as a photographer also, and that also helps you in building your reputation with department also, that okay, this guy is doing a decent and good job, so they give you more job, and then you do better job, that gives you more job kind of thing. So you
Absolutely.
have to show your intent clearly, that what you are focused, and then your way of doing work should be little innovative, little different than what every 80% or 90% people are doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great way to put it, which is that you start through programs that the forest department is doing, and there you do some work, you put up some work, and you do it as well as anybody else. And that's absolutely been true in your case. And that makes total sense because from a photography perspective as well, I think the forest department always is spoiled for choice in terms of whose photos they want to pick up from. So in that from that point of view, just having maybe a portrait of a tiger, which is fairly common these days, may not be the best. So if you want to build a point of view on photography, think about something else, and which is what you've done with wide angle. You've sort of both wide angle as well as camera traps, and you've done a really good job there. So let's move a bit into camera trapping, right? And you have been a bit of a pioneer as far as camera trapping in India is concerned. Sure, a lot of people are doing a lot of great work, but I've been to a couple of your workshops where you've explained how you go about camera trapping, and I've sat in your workshop where you've shown me how you built your traps and so on and so forth. So tell me how this camera trapping idea came to your head. When did it come? How did it sort of manifest? How did you go about the initial stages of camera trapping? We'll then get into camera trapping in as much detail as we can from you.
So, Anup, as I said, after a few years of my journey as a photographer, I understood that there is a lot more species that need to be documented, and that's the way. The only way to document them is the camera time, because most of them are either nocturnal or they're so elusive that you can't see them sitting
Yeah.
somewhere or waiting for
Yeah.
them, or their distribution is so poor that you really need good long-term projects to document them.
Yeah.
And that is how the camera trap concept started building on me. And then there was informations available on social media or YouTube. Some of the Nat Geo whom I take as inspiration, they have done an excellent job. The idea of camera trapping, and then in Karnataka again, I come to that time also. We had people, even Vijay Monraj or even Giri. We have some 3-4 people who were into camera traps. The basic knowledge what was required was available there to start with from. So I didn't start from zero. I had some already base to start from there. And as I said, I had an electrical engineering background. So that also contributed somewhere in developing my OPIR sensors and all that. Things were not mostly available across the cell that time, boxes. Now things are very simple in camera trap also. You can just buy the everything ready to use in the field. But it was good learning process. We know what is working, what is not working. And that is how the camera trap as a development of equipments has started. Getting permission, again I tell you, is not that I made a camera trap, somebody from Tiger Reserve called me that come and do Tiger.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I spent first 2-3 years working on a plantations, working in, because again in Coorg and Western Ghat, we have a lot of places where these species which I was focusing is not necessary for that I have to go into a national park or tiger reserve. Smaller mammals, most of them are available around the reserve forest,
Yeah.
around the plantation, and our coffee plantation has rich biodiversity. So that is where I started learning, and it was good for me because when I was working in a coffee plantation, I can access the camera as and when I want. There was no time restriction. Suppose I do nocturnal animals, I can be there out in the late evening also, because I know there's no big predators are around. If elephants are also there, then plantation knows that elephants are in the property or something. So we were aware that it is safe to go in the night. So my journey as a camera trapper not started in a proper national park or something, and that was initially 2 or 3. When I first a decent picture I got of some mongoose, and when I shared with forest department, because it was very different, then
Yeah.
we understood that was a brown mongoose,
Yes.
and nobody has a high resolution picture of a brown mongoose which is endemic to Western Ghat. So that is suddenly start developing a reputation as a camera trap, and as you start getting good results, you start improving as what things are working on. So a lot of failure in the beginning, which happens usually, but camera trapping was one way of making me more interested in a way that, see, when we do our regular photography, when we are going safari or we do bird walk, our most of the photography is reactive kind of thing. Reactive means you are there and suddenly a subject appears, or a tiger passing the track, or is walking on a path, or a bird just landed. So we have to react within the time a subject is giving to you.
Yeah.
So that is, and again, most of that photography is in a natural light, whatever the light is available. So we do. So I call it as a reactive kind of photography, where sometimes you just get a seconds to do it things. So things are never been always in what as a photographer you might want it to be, because we think that light should be like this and subject should become. We keep visualizing things when we are on safari or when we are walking, but thing doesn't happen like that. Camera trap gives us an opportunity where you can slow down, you can relax, you can
Yes.
plan your frame, and you can, because we are adding a flashlights in camera trapping. So now you not only rely on a natural light, you can have your light, and when you have lighting start playing in your frame, then the opportunity of creativity opens up, and numbers of light you can add, which direction you want to add, what intensity you want to add. So the camera traps give you opportunity. You can show your creativity as a photographer, You can create a studio however you want to do lighting, and also it gives you time to think about composition, what you want in your subject, and again the camera trapping, you will not just do x and y place. You want to know about your subject, you will
100%.
read more about it. So again it will help you and grow as a photographer, as a naturalist, because you will read about that species which you want to document, where it goes, what it eats, what track it will take. Common species you will maybe knowing. Tiger, everybody knows it will be like that. But I'm talking about the other species. So it will improve you as a naturalist first, or you might take a support of a scientist or some field person who's working in a field or guide. So another advantage of camera trapping, I feel, is that you can actually do a very collaborative work. You can team up with experts, guides, which is otherwise not that much possible in a regular handheld photography. You rely on guides there also, but here you can work as a team. You can work with scientists, you can work with
Yeah.
forest officials. So the camera traps opens up another way of doing a nature photography, which diversify your portfolio.
Percent completely like resonate with everything that you've said. And I think I remember that mongoose photo. It's apart from sort of having just a high resolution photo of the brown mongoose, which is endemic, it's also a very aesthetic photo, right? And that's also an important aspect of camera photography that you mentioned about, that you control the light. But I think camera trap photography is also one where you are sort of photographing animals in their most natural form. I think Steve Winter says this. He says that when an animal is making eye contact with you, you as a photographer are present in that frame because the animal is looking at you, right? But in camera trap photography, you've sort of removed yourself from the habitat entirely. There is very little sort of interference from you as a person, even though your camera is there. And I think we're able to capture some really nice natural moments, right? And if I had to think about this, some of your photos of the leopard from tea estates in Tamil Nadu, which you photographed, are really sort of unique in that sense, because you can see the tea estates in the background. You sort of give people a sense of the coexistence of the leopard within the tea estate. I think in one or two photos you can also see a city in the background of the leopard, and these are all very unique storytelling photos, and these may not be possible for anybody who is sort of walking with a long lens, and comes across a leopard to be able to take. These are photos you need to plan. These are photos you need to sort of understand where the animals come from, be a better naturalist, be a better photographer, and all of those. So yeah, thank you. That was super eye opening. Now, on camera trap photography itself, I remember that even though now things are available in the market, when you started some of these weren't available, right? You had to build. I remember you building casings. I remember you building, you sort of ordering all kinds of cables, trigger flashes, and so on and so forth. And I remember being in your workshop where you were cutting a few things to put together a box, which is a good casing for a camera. You were also building a buggy at one point of time. How has that journey been, and how did you sort of end up building some of this yourself? Is it just the cost, or is it the customization requirements? How did this come about?
So camera trap developing is again, it was a learning process, and we had some inputs available that time, and from there I built up. And I said that time the things were not readily available. And if things were available, they were not India. You have to supposed to get it from US or UK, and again we have to wait for someone is coming who is willing to bring, and all that was there. So easy way to do is develop our own PIS circuit. So we have developed our own passive infrared circuit also. We have borrowed some from our friends, and housing and all that we used to develop. There was again not a rocket science. It was easy, but because you have intent to do it, so and you will end up doing it like that. And another thing of my style of photography is that sometimes if I want a particular, I have an image in my mind and I want to execute it, so I will develop a way of getting it. It can be so because I don't do only the standard way of doing photography. So I developed a lot of things as per my requirement. So the buggy was in between thought process that I want to use a lower wide angle perspective in Africa where the big predators are there. So again, things were available. You have to just bring the things and assemble and get it ready. But later on, I found that it is not that useful. In India, nobody allows you to use buggy. And carrying it to Africa from customs and bringing it back was challenge. So another that project was for short duration. But camera trapping is something where you in between told that it is somewhere where I also feel that it is a form of photography where you don't disturb subject. As I'm not saying the other photography disturb, but this is a less footprint in the forest. Once you go there, you set up. And I modified my camera, my flashes in such a way that I have made extra battery packs where I made connection to them so that they can last for a long. So once I set up a camera trap, I don't have to go for 3 to 4 weeks again to check it out. So it don't disturb as a subject, and whatever document subject we get it will be more chances that it will be a natural behavior or something which otherwise a lot of things we got otherwise we would have not documented those behavior. So camera trap, it was a learning process, but now if somebody is starting, it's not that difficult part. As I said, things are readily available, and in India also, a couple of people are making sensors and selling it. So things are easy now, but you need to learn about the behavior of animal that you have to do yourself, or you have to team up with somebody who was working on those species, and then together you can work on a project, camera trap project.
100%. Like camera trapping is one place where, like, if you go on a safari, you can get away without too much natural history knowledge. But if you're doing camera trap, you have to know a good amount of the natural history and the behavior of the animal. And yeah, 100% sort of with you on that. I think you're also developing some video triggers right now for video light and so on and so forth. How is that coming about?
So in between, I got as I grown up, as I was growing as a camera trapper, I got an opportunity to work for a production houses. Like we have a Bangalore-based Ferris Creations. So they hired me for some camera trap project on snow leopards. And then Disney was doing a film on tiger that came last year.
Yeah.
So they hired me for in Bandhavgarh for camera trapping project. So during those projects, I was getting gears from them, and we were using those gears. So for my personal use, I'm not. I prefer to do the photography, but for now, since we are starting doing short films and for the forest department also, so I've somehow learned whatever I learned last year. So again, as things are technology was improving, we are getting cameras and we are getting video lights, we are getting triggers which are video friendly. So yes, I am just did a one project on Badra where we made a short film where we first time I use my own gears as a video camera, video camera traps, and we are building up still. Because this is again expensive job. Camera what we are using is has to be the latest one 4K recording should be doing because it's a production job.
Yes.
For DSL and all that, we don't have to buy expensive camera. We can start with a used camera and all. So each video camera setup costs around 5 to 6 lakh. So we are developing 4, 5, slowly growing. So this is something which now I'm focusing. When I do a camera trap project, I try to install some video camera traps also, and I'm sure that we again can make some nice clips, some nice behavior with doing a video camera trap.
Makes sense. Have you ever lost cameras in the field, elephants or termites or anything else?
No, this is very common thing. When you start camera trapping, you prepare that in each project you will do some 10-15% of your gears. And again, sometime when somebody asks me that he want to start a camera trap and he want to develop one camera trap, and so my first advice will be always that it will be not so simple and easy job. You can develop a one camera trap, but it's not going to last forever. It will be a continuous process where one or even sometime a flash will be broken. It can be by the subjects, elephant or bear, wild boar, and sometimes it can be the natural elements. It can be rain, it can be anything. It can be dust, it can be the tiniest. If you have a hole sometime in a monsoon, even ants or termites will be inside your, and you will surprise to open up and you will find that your camera is completely taken over by those small nest of eggs of those termites. So damage will be always there. There's not I've not done any single project where I have not lost. Suppose I start with 10 gears, by the time I close that gear, I must have left for 7 to 8. So I will lose something. But since either I work in some plantation where some owner is there, so they're away, so theft doesn't happen. Or sometimes I work in a tiger reserve where again department supports us. They keep a watch on our gear. So direct theft, luckily I didn't have till now. But yes, elephant damaged them, and Kaziranga I lost around 4, 5 cameras. Rhino has broken them. Elephant, they even the gentle kick from elephant is good enough for your box to
Yes.
go wrong. So
Yeah, for
loss
them
will
it's
be there.
curiosity and
Yeah. So when you get into a camera trap, think that you develop one, then but be ready. Sometimes even a cable gone, sometimes a flash gone, sometimes a lens is broken. So you have to keep upgrading and updating them systems, and that's how the camera trap will be. It will be always like a continuous process. It will not like that you did it and now it is ready. Stop kind of.
yeah. So I think I think maybe a good way to go about it, and we used to speak about this in 2014-15 when you're just about to get started on this, is that I remember you collecting a number of second-hand old cameras and old wide-angle lenses. So for somebody who's just bought a new camera, maybe it's not a good idea to put that out as a camera trap. But if you have an older camera, or if you're able to buy a second-hand old camera, because you don't need for still photography the highest resolution camera traps. You
True.
don't need
Yes.
an f4 prime lens, right? You can do a camera trap with maybe a camera DSLR, even that's 3-4 generations old. Maybe you can get a good shot with an 18 lens at f16, etc. You don't need those expensive lenses. So yeah, I think a good way to think about it is that you will lose gear when you're camera trapping, so you might as well be mentally prepared for it and put the kind of gear, because a majority of the beauty of the camera trapping comes from the kind of flashes, the kind of lights, and the kind of scape you set up, not necessarily from the say the DOF or the out of focus background, which sort of we think about a lot in nature photography. So yeah, just advice to folks would be to stock up on secondhand gear if they're thinking on camera trapping, right? So that's a really sort of thorough overview on camera trapping. Let's move into the tiger book. What are some of your favorite images from that book, if you had to pick up two or three?
So
Yeah.
the one of my favorite image from this book project is where the tiger is doing the right march standing on his hind legs. So this behavior we know. Some of the tiger, especially the new male tiger who's trying to establish their territory in the other male's tiger, they try to show their size and strength and they do this marking. So this behavior is not a regular behavior where tiger execute. Most of the tiger will do the spray marking when they have already established territory. So this is happens sometime during a tiger's behavior, and then again in his territory he might be marking on few trees, 4 or 5 trees, and then selecting the right tree where your camera can be placed, your lenses can be mounted. So it is little uh, uh, very difficult time something to try it out. So I started doing this. First time I did in 2015 in Kana. We selected a tree where the chances were tried. Then I tried in Bandhavgarh in 2017 and 18, and then in 2020 4th of February 2023, I got this photograph in Kaziranga. Sometimes you try to get that particular frame from many years, but you don't get things in favor. Here
Yeah.
also, and there was 3-4 trees in this area where this tiger was putting his mark, and we were trying to see that which tree we choose where the least chances of elephant to come, because if the elephant comes, it will just take the camera and just even just slight change of here and there, I would not got the composition what we thought of. And fixing a camera and managing that camera from that angle is different, because we can't carry a big ladder or something in the forest, so we have to use
Yeah.
our safari vehicle. So we have to choose a tree where vehicle can also go, and we can stand on some pipes of the gypsy and climb over it, and somehow we can reach 15 feet. And then when you do the composition, you will be not exactly seeing the
Yeah.
frame. So you will take
Yeah.
some test shot, then take out the camera again. You do the test shot, then you will set up lights and all that. So fixing itself is a little tricky job, and after that, chances that tiger will particularly come on that tree is very rare. We had a earlier success where tiger came till tree, he saw the camera, he might not interested, he just walked in. So we have lot of failure in last before we got the shot. So that day when we got this tiger, just day before also the elephant came and he just passed through it. If you had just little bit interested in it, it would have shown his interest to the camera. The next day we would have not got the shot. So this is something which I think I tried for 6-7 years and then finally I got. So this is something which I very like the photo because I am able to execute idea after 6-7 years also.
Even though it's one photograph, right? And it's a beautiful photograph. It's my favorite too. I just want to sort of take a moment to absorb the amount of effort that goes into it. You have to set it up on many trees, hoping that a tiger comes somewhere, right? Because what we see here is the output of one successful shot where a tiger has actually come. There are multiple failures in multiple jungles and so on and so forth. You understand which are the trees on which the tiger is making these marks, where the tiger is scent marking, where the tiger is likely to stand up, and you identify some of those trees, and then you shortlist some of these trees based on where you can actually fix a camera trap, and then you end up fixing the camera trap, and in one of these many trees it comes here. And the process of sort of envisaging the image to actually having it on your sensor can take up to 6-7 years. And I think that's something we should all just take a moment to absorb, because, yeah, that is the amount of time it takes to make a really, really good photo of a subject that you like. And that's the amount of effort it takes. So I personally draw a lot of satisfaction in putting the effort, and maybe you too, because sure, even if the image didn't come, the fact that you were able to think about this, the fact that you were able to place this, the trials of having failed, and the trials of having to get this perfect shot itself is a very, very sort of satisfactory thing for me. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Which other image do you want to talk about?
There's another image also which I call as is from Central India, and it is a rock art with a tiger marking
Yeah.
on it. So again, I like this image because we wish that we can get this kind of image, but we were never sure that we will able to get. So what happened? We were just doing a regular, just like we do a lot of recce before we set up a camera type. And while walking on a tiger trail, we came across this. It's not basically a cave. It is called rock shelter. So the long back, the art which is believed to be some 800 to 1000 year old, and that we came to know after reading that the type of pigment they use, white pigment, red pigment, depend upon which era there's been this art has been made. So the when I saw the art, it was the basic hunting tribes art, probably gone community from the central India, and they have in that central landscape many places, the central India landscape. There are many places they have this kind of art. So I wish that time that can we able to get a picture of a tiger with this art. That was like my least desire when I saw this place. And then we know that the tiger trail is coming at the extreme right edge, and tiger might enter and it will go down. It will just walk, and we might get it into the extreme right side of the frame. If we want to keep the rock art into the frame, that is the composition which we got. And so with that, we put some lights on the rock art to be visible because it was very faint. It is as it is some believed to be very old. So my idea was to show the rock art and the tiger, that how old long these tribals are living with a tiger kind of thing.
Yeah.
But to my surprise, when I went after 1 week, I saw that tiger is using that right corner of that place as a sign for sign marking. He is spraying there. The first time when we went, we actually not paid attention there. If we would have paid attention, we can make out if tiger is marking regularly. There is some spot will be there. But when we got a frame, and during this within week that it might have rained, and my camera was on the edge of that rock. So the water which was falling at the edge was falling right in front of my camera. So my camera front element must have got fogged. So I got to know that okay, tiger came, he sprayed there. So that was excellent news. We recomposed, we redid the lighting, and we start hoping that the concept came that the sign language. So how the tribal people used to has a sign language to communicate in that era, and how a tiger is using a sign language
Yeah.
to communicate with the other tiger. With that concept, I decomposed the image, and to our good luck, this female who was very frequent during that time, she was ready to mate. So she was really patrolling. So sometime tiger, in what phase tiger is there, it plays an important role in get your photograph. If she would have
Yes.
already had a cubs and then she
Yeah.
would have been not moving a lot, she would have been nursing her cubs, I would have not got this photograph. So she was looking for a mate. So she was almost weekly, she was passing through this place and she was marking it. So it given me a good time to create some different composition. Then I played with some lighting, I put some backlight and other things. So this is my favorite because when we started, we never thought that we will come that close. But from historical point of view, from the connection between tribal and tigers, these pictures make sign language as make a very beautiful story for me. So that is one of my favorite image.
Yeah, it's an absolute dream image. I remember talking about this image like soon after you got it, and I think it's not necessarily in a tiger reserve. I don't want to disclose the exact location, but it's not too far away from a city in central India, right? So, and just the whole thought of there being cave art and a tiger signal next to it is quite epic. Any idea on how old the cave art is? Has anybody given
So
you
that's
some?
what I understood is it believes to be some 800 to 1000 year old. So these rock shelters people used to use as a protection. There was no proper caves, so I
Yeah.
think through the element they might have to stay there for some time, and then they were vendor, so they used to move around.
Amazing. So moving on from sort of tigers to other kind of subjects, right? Before the tiger book came about, you had sort of specialized in really, really unique perspectives of some not so well known, some not so sort of well discovered animals. I have a few photos in mind, but what are some of your photos from the from of those subjects which are not so well known, maybe?
See, the Anurupa was saying that it's not straightforward that I got an opportunity to work with tigers. It doesn't
Yes.
come easy for me also.
Yes.
So my initial projects were again focused on subject which are easy to access, where I can go without permission. So domicile crane, because I'm from Rajasthan also, is a subject which is very interesting. So when I went there, in particular, I think 2000, there, everybody goes there, and there's a chugagar, a feeding center kind of thing, where villagers put the grain, and everybody, as a tourist and photographer who comes to stand around the chugagar. There's a village proper in the middle of the village, and houses, people stand on their roof, and they enjoy the amazing spectacle. Behavior happens early morning, tons of, like, you never
Yes.
know the impact or feel when the cranes start emerging at the sunrise, and the numbers keep increasing. Getting to see 10 to 15,000 birds is like, it's not easy, you can imagine. So the sky will be full with the calls, and crazy kind of environment will be there. So we photograph from the roof. So that is, I think I can say it, my first proper project where I start thinking that can we do something more than just taking a one time visit and do a 3 4 2 days photography. So I start thinking that why they can come cranes coming. End of the day, when you try to approach the crane somewhere else in the field, they're very shy. As you move, they will try to move. And here they're landing right in the middle of the village with so many houses around. People are doing their morning chorus. A tractor is going. School kids are going. People are standing on the houses. Still, the so no
Yeah.
number are coming. The logic is simple, because they are coming for grain. The first thought what I came is that concept which I told you at the beginning, that we start thinking when you take camera out of from your eye, you start visualizing that how others things are seeing the nature. So I thought how the grain would have been seeing the grain. So that is
Absolutely.
what I thought. They are coming because of those grains on the ground, and how the grains sitting on the ground with so many birds flying on the sky, the landing and chaos around, how they would have been seeing this whole scenario. So that is where and once you have a thought, then it is that then you have to start building it up, how to execute it. So that is
Yeah.
how. Then what I did, I used to, crane season start from September to say February. By March they start going. So I start going twice in a year. I will go somewhere in October and November, December for a week. Then again go in February. Then what I was learning, failure I did. Then next season I will go. So 3 seasons I went like this. And every season I learned something. Like when I got this idea to I want to do a from the grain, I didn't have a fisheye or ultra wide angle that day. That time. So
Yeah.
next time I have to go. So that time I just did a wide angle, ground wide angle, where they were jumping to the fence. So I put up onto the fence how the fence is seeing. Then this village, kitchen village, has a very old havelis, very old time. There's beautiful crafted windows are there. I thought these havelis are watching these cranes flying around from centuries. Why don't I document through those windows and all that? So I start developing in a many very different perspectives that how I can create. Next year when I went with a wide angle, 1224 wide full frame, and then a fisheye. And then when I set up there, I thought it will be easy. I just put a camera and crane will come and things will happen. So it was not like that, because when I put it there, and I made a ground digged, and that is for the shoe size box. So I went to local market from the shoe shop. I purchased those empty carton box, and we just made a hole for lens to come out, and then we place it. So as you set up there, and if the cranes land next to it by your bad
Yeah.
luck, it is a huge bird. One flick and the
Yeah.
dust will be onto the lens. So after 2 3 days, we got a success. Then I realized, because we am shooting from under the bell, under the den, and sun is on the top, I'm getting no details in the bottom. So I thought I will just add a flash. I add a flash. Very first day when I had a flash, I used to set up everything before the sunrise. 5:30, I used to take bucket of water and then spray around it, so that when animal land or bird lands, the dust doesn't flow. So around 1 or 2 meter area where I put up my camera, I used to spray the water to minimize the dust.
Dust.
So when I shut up the flash, I was sitting in a tent height, and trigger one flash fired, and the birds were just moved away from there. They will not come again. Then I realized they are not used to flash from the ground. So what I did, I left the box there with the aluminium foil there and came back to Bangalore. So I told the caretaker that let that box be there for whole season, 2 3 months. So when again I went in February, but they were get used to of that shining foil. So now when I used a flash, they were okay. So there's a concept which I learned during my CNP meetings, that you develop or you grow over your image. So you make some image and then you see it and then you check the possibility that is there any way I can improve this image if I get again chance. And then you is like keep working on that image. You can remove element, you can add element. So this crane project you can say was a learning process where I implemented that and what different perspectives I can think of. So over 3 years, I think by the time I finished this thing, I am not 100% happy with my image because when finally I got the image where the details were there under the wing, the sky was not always good. So as a
Yeah.
photographer, you become, no, it's a flat
Yeah.
sky. There should be some clouds also or something. The flying bird should be in particular this pattern where they are going over the. So we made tons of picture, but I can't say that I've achieved 100% what I did. But then other projects were waiting for me, so I thought I've given enough time.
No, I think those that is some of the most unique demoiselle crane images I've seen, and I think one of them won you the Century Photographer of the Year as well. I think, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's that's no mean feat, and it reminds me of the way, of the importance of the habituation of a species to some of your gear. Like the first time you set a camera trap up, something may not even come close to it. And I was working with spiny-tailed lizards in Rajasthan again, or with foxes in LRK, and especially with spiny-tailed lizards, the camera itself is bigger than the lizard, right? So the first time I placed a camera in the field, nothing came near it. So I spoke to our guide, our driver Hariji, and I just left a T-shirt with the stone inside the T-shirt so that the animals get habituated to that being there in their environment. And I went back 3 weeks later, removed the stone, put the camera inside, and was able to make some shots. So yeah, I think like I said, the trials of trying to get a good shot, and you have to sort of be in love with nature, be in love with the process, so that you're able to go back and do this. There's another image I want to talk to you about, which I think was an NIF and the Sienna winner, which is in an urban environment where you've got a photograph of a bat, and I think in Bangalore. How did that come about? Because that is one of my personal. I mean, I love bats as a subject, but that is one of my personal favorites of your entire portfolio. So talk to me a little bit about that image.
And that image again is a outcome of restrictions sometime you have because that was the COVID time and we were not
Yes.
supposed to travel out of Bangalore. And then I was thinking that what I can do in the Bangalore. And by the time I was already doing camera trap, but the regular sensor what I was using were not good enough to capture the bats in flight. And I was aware that we have the fruit bats in our streets flying every evening on those Singapore cherries trees. So I thought that is just a walking distance from my house, and I should start working onto that. But then I needed a laser trigger for bats, and I think with the Vijay Ralsar, we have already tried this bats in flight during one of for our this forest project book. We did Kolar bats. We went to Kolar and did the bats in flight. So technically, I was aware that what I need. I need multi-flash setup at low intensity. So technically, I was aware, and then because I was not able to go in wild, so I thought, why don't I do something in Bangalore? And then there were few trees around, so I just selected one tree where I got some nice neon signage at the background to give a urban feel. And it was just hardly, I say, just across my street, the main road is there. That is where I started. So what I used to do, I used to go every evening with a couple of tripods and light stand I used to carry, and we used to take our folding chairs, and I used to drive my car and park there, and we used to set up there. Me and my wife used to join me sometime, and we used to carry our tea, coffee also. We used to sit because it was just easy. Footpath was there and everything was there. And again, we start learning there. Sometime we got the so idea was to get a bat frozen, and that the flash was doing for that. And I have to use a slow shutter speed enough to get the streaks of the light
Yeah.
to get a sense of dynamism movement city is having. I don't want to a sharp still image, so I want to give a feeling. As overall image should give a feel of dynamism. There should be some movement. So we decided to shoot at some slow shutter speed. I exactly don't remember, 1/10 or 25 something. And then I have to keep a bat in somewhere where there's a darker area. So we got a lot of images where there will be some bright lights which will be seen through the bat body main structure. And then we set up a 4 lights, and they used to. So if you observe closely and sit every day, you will know that there's certain path they will just fly. So there will be many paths they will take under the tree when they're going, but some paths will be you will identify, and then which fits in your head. So it is again, I think we went for many days, not just 1 or 2 days. And it is not that every day we went. We might have break in between. So we went some days, then took a break, then we understand what is working. Again, it is a opportunity was there, and we don't have to do so. Sometime you have to, and that is what Kalyan told me in Nature in Focus. Jury that we liked it because you use the COVID time to create something within the town. So yes, sometime a good image is right around your surrounding. Not necessary you have to go
Yeah,
to.
and I don't think you're talking about the difficulty of the image in terms of the technical expertise it needs, right? For example, it's a slow shutter image, right? Which means that, like you rightly mentioned, if the bat is in the foreground and there's a bright light in the background, over time that light is going to overpower and the bat is going to become invisible. Secondly, you need to use the flash to freeze the bat and not sort of the motions. So just getting the sort of the measurements right in terms of how much your flash is going to be, how much your shutter speed is going to be, getting some streaks in the background with motion, getting those glow sign boards of those retail outlets just perfectly exposed, ensuring that all these exposures, nothing is too much, and then ensuring that the bat comes in a good part of the frame while there is nothing in the background that overpowers it, and still making it a good composition, so that it tells a story, that in the background you can see the image, there's a bat in front, some form of sort of space at the back. I think all of these come together, right? And it's even any one of these elements, be it in terms of the technical aspects of the flash settings or the exposure or the shutter speed going off, or the aesthetic elements of where the bat is in that frame moving away, this image wouldn't be what it is. So I think that's why it's my sort of favorite image from all that you've taken so far, because not only is it a beautiful image of a subject that I sort of like a lot, but it's also so difficult to execute. And I'm not sure everybody's going to be able to appreciate it until they are able to understand the nuances of both trying to photograph bats and trying to set up remote cameras for them. So yeah, one of my absolute all-time favorite images across all photographers, I'd say. So I think on the photos front, I can keep talking to you about every single image you've taken, but I think I'm sort of at the end of that. Any other images that are there in your mind that you want to talk about?
So something again, something I can't say the new concept I've started, but something which I means we used to do something macro, regular macro, because Western Ghat is a
Yes.
backyard of Bangalore, and it's amazing place to do macro. You just
Yes.
drive for 3 to 4 hours, you end up in Agumbe, Kurg, wherever you end up, you will have ample subjects, beautiful subjects to work onto that. So when again we started, the idea was to do the MM macro. That is what was standard approach was there. So there again, the thought process came that I want to show the environment also. So the wider macro concept came. And as the technology also changes, we know that now during the right time we got a wide angle macro lens also. Because before that, photographer might have thought that, but there was no actual proper lens was also available. So the wide angle macro lens start getting available. So that is where I started using a wide angle. So I have created some images where I just didn't want to just show the detail of a macro subject, a frog or even a snake or something. So I did a series of images. So I used to call it monsoon magic, and I used to think that this monsoon I have to create 5 images, and I will spend again that time I was working, so we has a June, July, August season,
Yeah.
3 months used to be there. So I used to spend whatever weekends leaves during this 3 months, is like a lottery time for us, that whatever harvest time for us, whatever best we can do, because again there's a many advantages. You don't have to pre-book 3-4 months how tiger
Yeah.
reserve you have to. You don't have to spend how much money you have to do in the tiger reserves visit. It's like you can choose your homestay as your budget. You just walk around and you have freedom. You can sit late, work whole night. So it's a creative freedom was there. So we used to enjoy this macro photography in Western Ghat, and this wider macro when I was doing. So one day, luckily, first to this getting the small gliding from Rockophorus lateralus was very difficult. It's beautiful, one of the most
Yeah.
beautiful what we have in Western Ghat. And then it was, I think, September, late monsoon, and that day the cloud opens up. Normally, when you do macro, because we have few natural elements which we try
Yes.
to add. We can add water, we can add sky, and sometimes we add waterfall in a background. So I got this opportunity where I have created a sky was open, and we thought, why don't I show this frog with a night sky? Because earlier we used to do this kind of
Yeah.
photography, but mostly with the larger mammals or something, or a natural tree or something like that. So this is one of my favorite image because that time, first though we were using a wider macro, and second time I was learning about a lot of technical thing, not very huge technique in that, but yes, I used to shoot subject first with a focus on a subject, and by the time flash goes off and subject is illuminated, gone over, I used to mark and I used to twist the ring suddenly so that focus goes to the infinity for the
Yeah.
later part
Background.
of the
Yeah.
exposure. And again, make sure that subject is in a darker part and we get some space. So this, if I want every monsoon, suppose I want to repeat this image, I will not able to do it because it's not necessary that we will get a open sky if go in August or any time I go. So it has to be like sometime nature has to support us. So this is one of my favorite image because nature was kind on me, and then I was able to do a technically image which I had in my mind.
100%. And Lateralis is a beautiful, beautiful frog. Hopefully, I'll get to photograph it this monsoon. But I think again in this, the amount of work it takes, which is from moving from focusing on the frog to quickly changing the focus to the background as soon as the flash fires, and then positioning it in such a way that there is no bright part of a star that interferes with the background of the frog. All of these are really, really sort of critical elements. So one of the things which I'm sort of picking up as a theme in all the photos that you've shared, be it the tiger where the amount of effort, or be it sort of the photo of the demonstrates, we've gone back many times and so on and so forth, is that you are like all in. You are maybe 100% in. There is no effort that you sort of don't do. You give it more than everything you've got to go in and get that image right. How did this sort of come about? Like, how did this sort of almost stubborn going for it with almost everything you have come about? And that's just amazing. Like, when you talk about the amount of hard work that you put, it's just amazing. So just curious about that aspect of your photography.
So Anup, see that what we started at the beginning is the same thing. We're doing because we love what we are doing.
Yeah.
Very simple. And I'm not like have any intention to make tons of images. Like I'm generally tell you, I'm happy. When I say I make means there are a lot of images which comes in our thought, then we draw them, then we try to see that how technical they are possible, where we will get an opportunity to do it, when, like that. So I have a drawing diary where I keep drawing when I drive and write and visualize those images. So I'm in not rush to create like hundreds of images, and because there's so many images already there. As you at the beginning, in between, you said that so many photographs are there, so many people are photographing. So we have almost major species are well documented everywhere. So we are in not rush to create same images, repeat. So our intent is to try some good images. Good means which is good for me. It's not necessary that it will be
Yeah.
appreciated by others or liked by others, but which I feel that I got it and I wanted to create it. So when you have limited images, limited goals, then your focus become quite intense to those things. So there's only two approach which I have. A common species, if you have, which others doing, you have to create a different image of that, which nobody has created. And you have two, three things. You have a camera which has aperture, shutter, and something which you have played with that, and you create some different or a perspective. You use different lens, different. Other is create of the images of the species which has not been done, which has not been well documented. That is two approach which I have. So it's become simple for me in that way because I don't have to go everywhere. Every majority people are going. So my competition is anyway very less. We will be going to the places where there is a no rush. So in that way it is good, and I have a creative freedom also because then I don't have any pressure that I have to get a head on or something or X and Y. If we get our because our images is within us, if we can create it's good. If it's not, we will keep trying kind of approach. So my is think that better to create few, 5, 6 images in a year, which is you feel satisfied as a photographer. That's all.
That is such a beautiful perspective on how to sort of think about and make a photo, which is think about the photo you want, just go after it. And it's okay if they aren't the most popular or they aren't the most sought after, as long as it is what you had in mind. And thank you for sharing that. I think I'm on sort of the last question. You also said that it doesn't matter what others think of a photograph as long as you are happy with it. But in your case, others also think very highly of your photographs. I mean, there's every practical award that there is which you have won or been mentioned and so on and so forth. And for those of us who are all sort of keen on awards, how do you go about picking up, selecting, curating, and submitting an entry into awards? What suggestions and advice do you have for photographers who are thinking about awards?
So regarding photo competitions, I do participate, and we long back when we were debating whether we have to participate or not, but my views were we should participate.
Yes.
Because that is a one way where you get to see when you participate in particular competition, whether you win or not, you will see who won, and then you will know that what is working, what is best work, how it is coming, and you will get a lot of inspirations to do a good work. So my suggestion is we should participate, but we should choose our competition also, because again photography is a big business, so we have to see that which competitions are for surely business point of view and which are actually challenging you as a photographer. So pick up your competitions, just because each participation in competition takes time. You have to size the file, you have to write the caption as per their requirement, then you submit. So I will say that you don't have to go for n numbers of competition. Just pick up really some good competition which challenge you at the core. So that's what I do. I just pick 3 or 4 competition in a year, and that's where it. And one of is Century Asia, because again I know this magazine I support from long time, and they do excellent job. It is a free. Another is DJ Memorial. Again, it is a free. The award money is also good. So that is the reason. Then Nature in Focus, because that is our team, and they really excellent entries come. Lucky I won before. Now I feel I might not able to win it. So it's getting tougher and tougher. And NHM, there's no doubt about it. BBC Wildlife Photographer of the Year, somebody called them, and is one of the award which I am participating from 10, 12 years, and me and Anrup discuss and debate many times. So how to crack it. So
Every year.
about the award, what is I understood is that it is something which you as a photographer can't plan much. See, one set of judges will have different thoughts. So it is very subjective to the. There's nothing like best product or best photograph of that year. There's nothing like that. This is a very subjective one about the choice, about the nature of images already won in that competition. What I do when I participate in competition is that I know, because I'm following that competition from some time, I know what kind of images are doing good. They have to be extraordinary in a behavior which they surprise the jury that okay, this is a behavior which happens, and they were not aware, because they all sit who in the panel are very learned people. So you have to surprise them something behavior. You just can't surprise them by a tiger spraying on a tree. That they will very well know that behavior. Second thing is you have to surprise them by some composition wise or something which they get surprised by your technique or your way of doing, how you executed it. It can be a common subject also. It's not necessary that you have to go for extreme subject and all that. So my approach is that that's where this 4-5 image concept comes, that you create some images which are different from what already there. See, the images which is already there means somebody is already done, and if the award winning photograph would have been there, then it would have been won the award. Why would have you won the award for that? So you have to create your own new image. New means it is should not be replica of some other image. First, I think that should be there. Your original thought should be there. Something or nature should support you where you have documented something which unfolded which you didn't plan, and it happened, and you are lucky to be there. So either of these two things will work. So
Absolutely.
that is something which I caution my is that don't participate in too many competitions, because there are too many. You will get a lot of emails, messages. Select few and focus on them, and just see what images are working there. And I think consistency, even 10, 12 years goes, you don't lose your heart. You keep trying it, and that will keep you motivated that okay, this is my goal which I still have to achieve, and you will be inspired to do some new or fresh work. So that is what my take is on.
I think it's the 16th year in which I've been participating in NHM. So
One NHM they allow 25, and I have 19 on final round. And then my friends were joking, "Bahut sara jeetega." I said, we need only one good image. We don't need 20 finalists. So
I think last year also I had 7 in the final round, but then they again mailed me and said,
so
sorry,
this give you a scale that you are doing a good work.
Exactly.
And you just have to improve a little bit. So that will is what scale will give you an idea that okay, you have to just little bit more, you have to work, and you have to think more, That's all.
I take happiness in the fact that every year some images are there in the final round. And yeah, so that's that. Thank you so much for your time, sir. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Hopefully, you and I will travel again, and hopefully, it'll not be to Kabini. We'll travel to a place where we can actually walk around, make some nice images, and set up traps and so on and so forth. This has been a super eye opening conversation for me. Thank you so much for the insights. Thank you so much for the time.
Really, thank you, Andrew, for getting me onto this
My pleasure.
show.
I can have any length of conversation, any number of times with you about
Obviously, that is the
photography. So
problem with
yes,
my photography talk, that I can talk and thought shares, and we can discuss, and that can go on and on. Especially with
absolutely.
people like whom with I, we began our journey, and we travel so much, so much to share always. So nice to
Thank
be
you,
on the
sir.
show. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.